switch to, just give it a couple of minutes, but I'll switch to our agenda so we can have a look at what we're going to be covering today. I've had feedback from more than one person that they've panicked because they don't know what the EPIC is. That's absolutely fine. We don't expect you to know what it is yet. We only found out what it was a couple of weeks ago. So it's a framework that was taught to us by a comms professional called Helen Reynolds, who works for an organisation called Comms Creatives. She came in to one of our away days as a communications team, and it was quite applicable to social what she was teaching us, but it's something that we can broaden throughout all of our communications. So we'll start off with going through the foundations of what it means, what the EPIC is, how it's been applied across the trust already, because I've looked through a lot of your accounts. You can see you're already doing the work without even knowing you're doing the work, which is brilliant because we were able to apply similar things to some of our corporate accounts, but it's also given us ideas for new content that we can generate. So we'll have a look at the EPIC at CUH specifically and how it's been applied so far, and then we will build a social post together. The EPIC, what is it? It is a mix, it's a framework of content that you can create for your channels. So it stands for behind the scenes, educate, entertain, promo, inspire and conversation. So this isn't something we've come up with, but it's something that we've started to apply to our channels already. We've already started thinking slightly differently about how we make content more off the cuff, how we apply things to digital only, because working in the comms team, we quite frequently have a process of somebody comes to us with a news story and say it's a new bit of research. That gets written into a press release or a news story that goes on our website. We then put that on social media and we distribute it to different journalists and things like that. But what we're trying to think about is, well, some of these give us opportunities to just go out and meet some members of staff or some patients or whoever's in our department. We can go behind the scenes and we can show what's going on in our department, give people a look into the areas of the hospital that they don't always get to see. So the star of the show for our first post example is Katie. Katie has done a wonderful example of behind the scenes content. So the good part of this is behind the scenes can humanise, it can help build trust, because you're seeing the actual face of people who are caring for you, running our sustainability comms, or people who you're going to see when you attend the hospital. It can show value in the action that we're taking, because obviously this particular news story that Katie was working on is a trust-wide improvement scheme. So people on the outside in our social channels, our audiences, are seeing that we're actually putting things forward. And the good part of this content as well is I reached out to Katie and said, well, I love it, so can we promote it on our channels as well, which is something you can all do with your different departmental accounts. You see something that you think is really good, but we've got our own angle on it, we can basically kidnap the content with permission and rehash it for our own channels. So, and it also makes people feel welcome. If they know, for example, someone from theatres had posted a day in the life of what they've done, with everyone consented obviously, they might think, oh, when I come in for my op, I recognise that person. Or even just seeing it on the social channels and knowing that there's real people behind the screen, there's real people in our hospital who actually, you know, they care, they want to provide the best service that they can possibly, and we're getting the opportunity to tell that through socials. Next option we've got is educate. So this is some of the Instagram feed of the Rosie Hospital. So the good thing with how the Rosie have done it is not only is it really engaging and really pretty, but it actually is making life easier for the people that are attending the hospital. They're seeing before their appointment, oh, here's a little free virtual face-to-face breastfeeding workshop. I can ask my midwife about that when I come in. Or if I'm planning a home birth, I can already have a look in this information and start that process. So it just makes life easier. It can also be really interesting for people who aren't your usual audience. So you're broadening your horizons with who's going to engage with your content, because someone might say, well, I don't know a lot about baby movements and pregnancy. I'm going to read this. And the more that people, especially if they happen to be a carousel of images, the more that people swipe through and the more that they click, the more it promotes your content to other people, because it's seeing a press down and a click and a swipe as, oh, they're really interested in this, must be really engaging, and then it goes wider and wider. So it can fascinate people with different content that they're not used to. Also, it's something quite good that the Rosie do is showing the outcome of different infographics you've produced, things like that, show how the hospital is working to either improve services or things that they've done really well in the past. So it gives people an idea of what to expect when they attend the hospital. And also, all of this kind of stuff ties into the benefit of my chart and things like that, because if people are already, taking care of their own health and putting that first, they can have a look at the information for planning their home birth from our social channels, log on to my chart, see that they can start putting data in there as well. We're just making it more accessible at home. So there's natural things like it'll reduce appointment length and things like that, but also it's just making people feel more in control. We've then got entertain. This dietitian's video is from a little while back, but it does get shared every now and again, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's really a good example of like off-the-cuff content that does create positive associations with the brand or the organisation or the department. So the idea of this video is it's almost like a day in the life of, goes through what different things dietitians do in their role. But it was just fun. I think that's something that I really took from when I learnt about this framework, is working for such a huge organisation, especially one that's got, quite a prestigious background, things like that. You forget that with sensibility, you can have a bit of fun. You can think, well, who is this going to appeal to? It's going to reach new audiences because younger people might see it and think, when I'm coming into hospital and I've got a dietitian appointment, I'm going to know that the people I meet are fun and approachable and I've got a bit of a sense of humour about them. So not only have you reached your normal audience who are already following, this has gone on to have like 45,000 views, which for a departmental account is absolutely amazing that you've managed to create something that resonates with people so well. I know with socials, sometimes it can feel a bit disheartening, especially if you've got a slightly smaller account, because you might feel like, oh, I'm not making as big a difference because I'm not reaching 45,000 people every time I post. But even if one person, in my opinion, sees like the Rosies how to navigate the pregnancy journey at this hospital and gets a better understanding and already feels more in control and more just like they understand the process, that makes a massive difference. And once they see it, the fact that they'll engage with it and share it wider and wider is evidence that you can get that reach, but it just takes hitting the nail on the head, which there's such a difficult thing with like the tone of social media and things like that. You don't always get it right. Sometimes you miss the mark on some work that you've worked really hard on, you think it's going to do amazingly. And then I've done it before, I've made a video that's taken me 30 seconds and suddenly that's blown up versus something I've spent like 2.5 days on. But don't get disheartened, because you get little gems like this that is obviously someone's little brain baby that has just popped up and gone, let's give this a go, and it's worked out really well. And you don't need professional filming equipment, professional graphic design skills and things like that. That's why we're going to be using Canva today, because we want this to kind of see that with the services that are accessible to you, you can still do exactly what you need to do in this role. Promo is also a big one. A lot of us across the hospital have events and different webinars, open days, things like that we want to promote. One department that does this particularly well is the CUH Arts team, which actually does sit within our team, so we do get a little sort of snapshot into what they're doing quite regularly. They had their arts festival last week and did a fantastic job of promoting each day what was to be expected on the campus. So they've done a nice mix here with images that have been taken throughout previous arts festivals or previous days, and they've combined it with a little graphic with some text on as well. So it's got that human element, it's made what is available to our staff and our patients really clear, and it's showing what to expect. There's a lot of, I think nowadays, especially post-pandemic, there's a lot of anxiety around what to expect from events, and I think just making your promotions clear, enticing, and it does help. They've got some beautiful photos as well, but just knowing what to expect and setting up that kind of expectation when you're hosting these events to take photos for the future is always good to consider. Then we've got Inspire. So I'm going to do a little plug of not some work I've done, but someone in my team has done. Kelly, who works in our internal comms team, did a brilliant job of writing up something like, I can't even count, it must be like 20 or 30 different long service awards from people across the trust who've worked up to like 50 years at CUH. This kind of content shows that we do care about our staff. We care about the value and the time that they add into their workload and into the community as a whole. It celebrates staff. You can do this, similar content with patients or with different departments. So we always find this kind of stuff, like long service awards, you made a difference, thank you Thursdays, they always perform really well because people actually want to, again, see that human element, that human side. And it's also just feel good. Like, who doesn't love seeing a little nosy throwback to when this person started versus when where Teresa is now? And also the fact that it gets you a bit of an insight into someone's job, it gets you a bit of an insight into the NHS, and it also just makes you feel good because you know that someone's being cared for and celebrated. And then conversation. We've got a really nice post here from CUH Cancer Support Services. I imagine, Sarah, with your role, you have a lot of difficult topics to cover. But the thing I really like about your socials, particularly on Instagram and Facebook, is you really do start that conversation. You have a very conversational tone in which you address your audience. And it's not only does it make it seem a bit more human, a bit more like there's someone behind that screen, and yeah, I could go and approach and ask questions, but also it's warming people up before you move into those really difficult, complex topics. And that's something that I really did pick up from the Epic when we learnt about it, and that I wanted to apply more to our channels as well, which we do it when we're like responding to complaints or positive content or whatever. We're a bit more conversational there, but that's something we can definitely take forward in posting on our corporate channels. So that is the Epic.